Hey, this is the One Advice Channel 2. What I want to talk about today is the topic of does America hate black people? So, when it comes to the question of does America hate black people, the simple answer to the question is no. So, when it comes to, of course, the topic of does America hate black people, of course, America in this context being represented by the biggest population of Americans, which of course is white, over 220 million white people in America, roughly around that area, compared to every other race for that matter, they obviously, common sense, would be the best representation when describing how America sees a specific group of people. So the truth of the matter is, when it comes to that specific topic, America does not hate black people. I just feel that when it comes to the topic of course, does America hate black people, the truth of the matter is, when it comes to that specific topic, of course, for that matter, to be quite honest with you, the truth is that I feel that it comes off that way more, because so many white people are horrible at, calling out their racist, countrymen or fellow men, if you like to use that term, okay? That is the truth of the matter, is that non-racist white people are horrible at calling out the racism in their community, whether it could be friends, family members, specifically, of course, long-distance family members, and so on and so forth. They just done a terrible job at it. So it gives the illusion that all white people or all white Americans, for that matter, hate black people, okay? And that is the truth of the matter, of course, is that it gives that illusion. But the truth, like anything, is sometimes, or if anything, all the time for that matter, is always different from what you think it is, okay? Because that is the thing that people need to also understand about the white community, especially for us people of color, especially of course black people, is that the way white people are like is that when it comes to topics like race, or specifically, of course, talking about black people, to be quite honest with you, the truth of the matter is, for that matter, is that they are horrible at, at communicating how they feel. For them, there is something I've noticed that is very true about them, known as silence, okay? And that's what I've heard about a lot of them, okay? Specifically when race is brought up. Specifically, even more specifically, of course, black people, are brought up, is that they just are silent. And that's the truth about white people, is that culturally in general, even aside from talking about black people, they have a way of staying silent about things that make them feel uncomfortable. Just like when you're in a public place, for example, you will notice that if you see someone saying something really stupid and really offensive, specifically if it's racist against white people or whatever for that matter, you will always usually realize that they are always dead silent and they'll just simply not say anything. And that's what I've heard about them in general. And I believe a lot of that comes from, of course, the Germanic influence, because most white Americans are actually descendants of Germans and a lot of course, other European nations, no surprise, but specifically Germans. Okay, so the Germans have this way of thinking, from what I'm aware about them, I don't know much about Germany, but from what I know about Germany, they have this way of thinking that if somebody's saying something really stupid or is just a really goofy person, you ignore them. Just like Middle Eastern and Asian countries, specifically like China. If somebody says something stupid, you lost respect for them, whatever, you ignore them. So in other words, if they say something to you, you just don't say anything back. You just ignore them and walk away. And that's what I notice about white people, that they're similar in that regard, specifically with the German influence on their nation. So if you say something really stupid or weird or anything like that, they'll just ignore you, okay? And that's what I've noticed about them. And that is something that is very big among them, okay? And when it comes to talking about race and topics like that, it's no different. They have a way of just staying silent, okay? So a lot of us, of course, people who are outside of their community, interpret that silence as of course, being racist too, but that's not specifically how it is, okay? And that is something that, of course, can give the illusion. It's just like YouTube comments, okay? When you go online, you just keep on seeing racist comments, specifically when certain subjects happen and so on and so forth. But the truth of the matter is that just because there's a lot of hate for people online, it doesn't necessarily represent how the majority of a population feels. And there's actually quite a few examples of that in recent history when it comes to that specific topic in honesty. For that matter, saying of course, when you see a lot of these hateful comments, you assume, oh, everyone thinks the same way. Everyone thinks the same way. It's a representation of the whole population. But sometimes you realize it's not true. Just like I remember, a perfect example could be when these right-wingers online, who of course are racist, no surprise, because that's what we're talking about here, were posting comments online talking about, oh, we want Marine Le Pen to win a French election, we want her to win an election, we want her to win an election, we want her to win an election. And it seemed, since so many comments were pro-Marine Le Pen, that she would win. And you know what happened? She lost the election easily, to her opponent, whether it's France or some other European nation, I don't know. But she lost it easily. Or I should say the person lost it easily. I don't know if it was her, whatever. You get the point. And that's what my point is trying to make, is that just because a lot of people say something online does not mean it represents how the majority of people feel. And there's quite a few elections that have actually proven it, okay? So if we just look at read the comments and assume this is how you guys all think, we're going to think they all think that way, but not all of them think that exact way. And that's the truth of the matter, and not just all of them think the exact same way, the majority of them might not think that way. And that's the truth of the matter. Even up here in Canada, we have the same thing. Everyone in the comment section, when we look at political videos, they're talking about, oh, I'm going to vote for Pierre Pouvelaire, I'm going to vote for Pierre Pouvelaire, I'm going to vote for Pierre Pouvelaire. And you know what happened the other day? The majority of people didn't vote for Pierre Pouvelaire. They voted for Mark Carney. Okay, so what does that show you? Just because the majority of people say something doesn't mean that all that exact way. And when it comes to racist comments and so on and so forth, of course it's the exact same thing. That doesn't represent how the majority of people feel. And that's exactly what I'm trying to say here. So in truth, in short, that is what the truth is about America's race issue. Is that white people are just not what I call it now, the racism of their fellow people, which gives the illusion that they guys are all that way. But the truth is not all white people are that way. And the majority of them in America are not that way at all, to be honest with you. In all honesty, to be quite honest with you, for that matter. So, in short, that is the truth when it comes to the race issue. It's just that they have to do a good job, and that is something that, as a result, you can see the results of that and why there's so much tension in America and so on and so forth. So that's the truth of the matter about it. And this is nothing new, actually. Even when you look at the history of America going back to the 1800s during Reconstruction, when Abraham Lincoln, of course, after he died, when they were doing Reconstruction for America, to try to help make America better, they were willing to work, the people from the North were more than willing to work with white Southerners to help Reconstruction and even have them in positions of power, to help with Reconstruction, which is actually really fucking stupid, especially to us from today's standards, because we're all realizing, why do we want to have people from a certain region that literally all of them hate black people with a passion, compared to us that might be racist, but is not as racist, compared to them? Why do we want to have those same exact people in a position of power, especially the ones who are willing to fight a fucking war for them to keep slavery in line? And that's the truth of the matter. They were willing, the people from the North, politicians from the North, were more than willing to accept white Southerners from the South. And that's exactly what happened. And we now see what the end results are at the end of it. America still has a race issue when it should have disappeared a long time ago. So in short, to sum up my whole video, that is exactly what I'm talking about. To be quite blunt and honest with you. Okay? To put it bluntly, okay? for that matter, to be quite honest with you, is that America in general is not racist. Of course, referring to them in the present day, it's just that they haven't done a good enough job in dealing with the racists in their community, the white Americans at least, and that's why we come off thinking the way that we as black people feel about them. Because as the saying goes, things can be very deceiving sometimes. And one thing that can be very deceiving is reality. Reality can be very deceiving sometimes, and that's the truth of the matter. So that is the message of the video. So I hope I answered your question if you're curious about it and wanted to, of course, uh, know about that stuff, and that is the truth of the matter. So anyway, this is my video, and this is all I have to say. And simply put it, I am out, and I hope you enjoyed it. And this is all. So later.